So to create this stop motion animation that I put on TikTok, I use Nuplast clay. It's a clay I often use, and when you're sculpting something big, it's often a good idea to put tin foil inside. So I've made a tinfoil based foot, and I'm going to sculpt clay around this. Now this reduces the weight of the foot, it makes it easier to rig, and it also saves your clay because you're going to be using far less clay. I just pull off chunks, flatten it out, shape it around the foil, and then use my thumb and fingers to smooth it around. Now if you're new here, I'm Tortor and I'm a stop motion animator. I've recently started putting animations on TikTok, and I explain how I do them, show you the behind the scenes over here on this channel. So this is what the finished foot looked like. I put a little bit of detailing in for the toes and for the ankle bones. To make the boulders in this animation, I'm also using new clay, and I'm using the multicultural pack and a mix of the grey with a little bit of brown and black in there as well. Exactly the same technique. It's got a foil core, and then I'm flattening out bits of the clay and wrapping it around that foil to create my boulders. Now this foot is going to come in and it's going to crush the boulder, just like the line in the lyrics says, crushing boulders with my feet. So I needed to make boulders of different sizes, which I will replace out to give the illusion that this boulder is getting crushed. So starting the animation, I wanted this to look as if me, the sculptor, is sculpting the boulder, and then this massive giant comes in and breaks my boulder, which I've just spent ages making. I thought it would be more funny to do it that way, but because both my hands are in the shot, I had to trigger the pictures with my foot. So I put my Dragon Frame keyboard down on the floor, and I was tapping the enter key with my big toe. I've never done that before, but it actually worked really well. And it might be a technique that I use more often, even perhaps when I don't need to, just because it means that your hands can really focus on the animation and what you're doing there. So as you can see, I get to the point where I want my hands to come out of the frame in a bit of shock, as if to say, oh my goodness, something big is coming. And then I'm just going to introduce the foot in slightly on this wide shot before I change the camera angle to go close in on the boulder being crushed. So the easiest way for me to do this was to actually just hold the foot, because I was only framing for this narrow phone shape. It meant that my hand could still be in the wider frame, and there would just be very small amounts that I would have to edit out in Photoshop afterwards. Now I've changed the shot slightly. This is where the boulder is going to get crushed, and as you can see, the foot comes in and the foot's going to touch the top of the boulder, and then I actually push down on the boulder a little bit to deform it, to give it a bit of squash, and then the next frame after that I replace it out for some smaller rocks to give the illusion of this boulder crumbling. Now these rocks are going to fall away outwards, and then I thought it would be a nice idea to actually make all of these little rocks disappear into the surface so that I could loop it. The foot could walk out of frame, and then a new boulder can roll in or like slide in, and my hands can start sculpting it again, and the whole animation will essentially loop. So basically, to crumble the boulders, it was just a case of switching out boulders for slightly smaller ones. So the boulder pieces gradually get smaller and smaller until there isn't any boulder left at all. Now this was pretty simple to do. Once the foot was flat on the floor, all I did was move the bits of boulder outwards slightly from the foot, and then started swapping out the larger lumps for smaller lumps until the smaller lumps became nothing, and it gave this really nice illusion of the boulder completely disappearing, almost like a puff of smoke. And then to move the foot out of frame, I decided again to hold it with my hand. I took a clean frame here of the blank environment, and then I just edited out my hand in Photoshop by painting it out. It probably wasn't the best way of doing it, but it worked, and it was the quickest way of achieving what I wanted. That's the thing with TikTok, is things change on the app so quickly. Like trends are there one day and they're gone the next. So I have to act fast, and animation isn't fast to do, as anybody watching this that animates will know. So it's kind of, how can I do this as fast as I can do but still make it look really good is my challenge every time, and that's the way I decided to do it. So it's looking pretty good, even with my hand left in, and I think I'm quite happy with that at this point. So I decided to leave things there and then take this into the edit and paint out my hand on those few frames that needed it removing. If you want to see how to do rig removal, I can put a link to a video where I've explained that thoroughly in the description box. And if you want to see this actual finished TikTok animation to the music track Giant by Calvin Harris and Rag & Bone Man, I'll put a link to that in the description as well, so you can go and follow on TikTok and see what I'm up to. It'll also give you previews of what's to come, because I put the animations out first on TikTok before I edit together the tutorial. So if you want some advanced previews on videos that are up and coming, then definitely follow me on TikTok to find out. I'm currently trying to post 2 or 3 new TikToks per week.